Guinness, do you wanna play some chess? So I've been playing chess since I was a kid. My uncle and father have taught me how to play it, and I really enjoy spending time playing chess with them. About 2 years ago, I opened up myself to the world of chess again. Now as an adult, I realize how beautiful this game is. Playing with my cat has always put me into a competitive disadvantage. I mean, just have a look how he rolled me in this game. Straight away he took control of the center and then just pushed for the win. My go-to site for playing chess has been Lichess.org, as it didn't require registration and the games felt a bit more fair playing against humans instead of cats. Over those 2 years that I've been playing chess, I built up a habit to save links to the games that I won. I would send them over to my saved messages within Telegram messaging app, hoping to show it one day to my friends in a bar or a library. The problem with this approach is that I couldn't search the games that I already played, and there was no way to add any sort of comments or tags to each of the games. That's when I decided to create my own website, so I can store my games with certain tags, descriptions, and be able to search through them. First step was to somehow export all my games from Telegram. Telegram has chat export functionality, which I used to get my messages in a JSON format, which I then parsed and extracted all of the links that are pointing to Lichess.org. Next step was to get my PGNs out of Lichess. PGN is a file format which stands for Portable Game Notation and contains lists of moves along with other useful information about the game played. One way to extract PGNs would be to manually click on every link and export it one by one. But who does that? Great software engineers say, do not spend time doing something by hand for 1 hour if you can automate it in 12. Thankfully, Lichess has an API that allows you to export the games in PGN format, so I decided to use that. My initial intention was to do this project in 24 hours. You know, to be like all other cool kids on the block. But even if I wanted to trick you with an editing magic like everyone else does, I don't think I would be able to explain why Guinness has transformed from a kitten to a big chunky boy in 24 hours. But back to the project. Before proceeding with any of the UI elements, I had to pick a database to store all my games. I've decided to go with Firebase as I haven't used it before, and the whole idea of those little projects is to explore areas of programming that I don't touch at my regular job. So, the boring part. I wrote a little script that takes all the links from a JSON file, filters them by the domain, pulls all the PGNs from Lichess, and throws them into a database. Done. Boring part over, back to some visual stuff. So first, there was a board. Not this one, but rather a chessboard. Lichess has open sourced their chessboard implementation, which I use in this project, as it provides everything that I need. Link to the library in the description below. Parsing of PGNs is done by a library called Chess.js. It can do way more than just parsing, but in my case, all I need, for now at least, is just a list of moves to be provided to my chessboard component. I've added the ability to move through the positions within the game using arrow keys, just to test how the board renders the pieces, as well as animations between the moves. I then added an autoplay feature which automatically plays through the game, and then goes back to the starting position. So far the website looks kind of meh, so we need to spice it up with some colors. I've added an animated border to the chessboard component which cycles through a predefined gradient. This led to another idea, which was to have a featured game at the top of the page, which would utilize this new fancy border that I have added. Now that autoplay was running all the time, I added the ability to pause the autoplay by hovering over the board with the mouse and then using the scroll wheel to go back and forth through the moves. This is similar to how Lichess does it, which I think is a great way to quickly look through the game. I've also connected Firebase to the webpage so I could display more games out of the database, instead of using one hard-coded that I had before. I've decided to add a playback control buttons to all other games, as having the scroll wheel to move through the positions would break the page scroll, so users would have to aim in between the panels to be able to scroll down, which is a no when it comes to UX. As I've loaded more and more games utilizing my fancy spinning knight animation, I've started noticing a performance drop which I did expect to happen. The more games you load, the more HTML components are being created and rendered on the page, which obviously slows down the overall performance. The solution is to use Virtual Scroll, which only renders items that are visible within your viewport. Now, unfortunately, I haven't captured all my miserable attempts to get Virtual Scroll working, so please enjoy this lovely time-lapse. I've decided that I need to change my layout in order to get Virtual Scroll working. Cards and Virtual Scroll didn't really work well when you had various length descriptions in them, so I ended up using lists as they were somewhat more uniform in shape as you filled them up with information. As you can see, once I've done that, I'm here on the last game in my list and there's no lag anymore, perfect 60 FPS. Having all those games is great, but how do we add new ones? Well, I've decided to explore another area which I haven't touched since 2007, chatbots. Given that I was sending links to Telegram before, I thought that I might as well keep doing it, but rather in a more streamlined fashion using Telegram Bots API. And I think you might have to enjoy another time lapse, as I've been battling demons called limitations of Firebase functions and haven't recorded anything useful that can be shown in this video. One of the limitations is that you can't make an external HTTP request on a free plan. And I actually was kind of fine with it, as Telegram allowed you to do various actions as you reply with a response. But I didn't like the flow of sending messages, getting messages back. I wanted something that didn't clutter the chat window, but more on that later. Another brick wall that I hit was related to deployment. Funny enough, when I started this project back in July, it wasn't an issue. But starting from August 17 of 2012, you now cannot deploy functions as part of a free plan. You probably expect another time-lapse to cover up my frustration, but I have Netlify, and it actually allowed me to build the bot the way I initially wanted. Regardless of which hosting provider I've used, I had to solve one fundamental challenge: how to store and track various import stages, such as specifying the link, entering tags and description, etc. I was looking at how other people tackle this, and most of them seem to use some in-memory storage like Redis. You see, anytime I send the link, the bot needs to store that link somewhere, and any subsequent commands to add description or tags should update information associated with that game. I didn't want to introduce databases into chatbot, as it would add unnecessary complexity to it, so I decided to use what I have, the message itself. The idea is to store game-related information in serializable, deserializable format as a text within the message. Initially, I decided to store the state in a JSON format, but it looked kind of ugly, so then I remembered about another format called YAML, which looks a lot more human-readable. Okay, so storing various values within a message is great, but how do you know which game you're currently adding the data to? Well, it's actually easy. By using reply functionality within the Telegram, I can target a specific message and add data just to that message. Given that Netlify does not restrict outgoing HTTP requests on their free plan, any command that I send to the bot I could read, parse, update, and then remove the message you have sent, utilizing multiple bot API calls. This allows me to keep my chat view nice and clean. Once the user is done filling in the information and sends a publish command, I can then import all the info from Lichess, as well as any additional information I have added through the bot and add it to my Firebase database. Now that we could add the games to the database, I decided to finalize the website by adding search functionality by tags, winner, day played, and outcome of the game. While the website looks very basic and I have removed some of the features towards the end, like rating for each game, I've decided that done is better than perfect. I've learned a few things about Firebase, Netlify, Telegram bots, and added a nice little project to my portfolio. Instead of me talking about how I actually made this website, I invite you to check it out yourself. Click on the link in the description below. I have many other interesting projects in the pipeline that I would like to share with you, so if you're interested, consider subscribing. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you soon.